Hey guys, welcome back. Some of you guys might remember this build here. This is my wife's build in the Raijintek Ophion case, and I'll put a link right up here for the video of the build on this. But she's had this thing for quite a few months now, and I have yet to have the opportunity to, give a rundown on what I think of this case and the build. Um, First thing I want to cover though is the motherboard in here. You can hear a fan really loud. That's this fan right here. There's two headers on the motherboard, and I have this fan plugged into one, and then the 15 millimeter fan on the bottom that's plugged into another header. So that one's plugged directly into a Molex power connector, so that fan's on high all the time. So I got to just get a splitter for that, and then I can tie these two together. Um, but the motherboard that's in here is it's the ASRock Fatality X370 Gaming ITX AC, and it's a full featured board, but this board has been nothing but issues. This is the second board I've gotten. The first board had to be RMA'd because after the first boot, the BIOS went to crap on it. Um, this board right here, the BIOS was good on it, and I put it all together. But then afterwards, of course, I started noticing issues where um, if you set everything to auto, your core boost will set all your cores to, under any load, all cores will go to 3.9 gigahertz, and your voltage will, for each core will vary between like 1.49, 1.54, and of course the temperature goes through the roof. Anytime I make any change in the BIOS, I can turn that off, and it'll re-enable it, so I got to go back in and turn that off. Right now I've got it set at manually set to 3.6 gigahertz at I think like 1.29 volts or something like that, so that it doesn't get hot. I mean, this cooler does a decent job, but when you're putting that much voltage through, I mean, anything's going to get hot, even this 2400G. As far as the case goes, um, if I was going to build this again, I would definitely get a SFX power supply, because this is a full-size power supply, and you can see how the limited space between the cables and the fan here. um, you still got quite a bit of fan exposed, but that's just really tight there, and there's not really a lot of spot to put your cables. And you can see this, the ATX power cable is practically covering up the RAM here. um, the fan down here, I would definitely recommend a fan. You can put a fan, 120 millimeter by 15 millimeter slim fan down here, or you could put a 3.5-inch hard drive, but I would go to hard drive for a fan, because you need this fan. Temperatures really improve with a fan down there sucking in, and there's a filter on the bottom, so it does filter the dust. But yeah, with that fan blowing up and these exhausting, temperatures are decent on here. The only change I made to this today to do testing was I did add the riser cable for PCI Express, because let me spin this around. To give a true test of temperatures, I wanted to have a GPU installed in here as well. So you see we've got a MSI RX 580 installed in here, and this is a BIOS overclocked one, and it runs hot, so this will be a good test. You see you got the fan down there that's also blowing air up. Some of the things about this case, the fan down here, I mean, you really got to push it to get underneath this connector right here for your power, and this is where you plug your power connector into the back, and this goes over and up to the underneath to the power supply. So that's like an extension cable plug in the power supply. The fan controller here, there's really, I mean, if you put a longer graphics card in here, which a longer graphics card will fit, the fan controller for these Raijintek Iris fans, really, you're going to be hard pressed to find somewhere to put it. You're going to have to put it down here. As far as the other cable management, back here, I mean, these can tuck over here, and you can zip tie them a little bit better. To get them a little tighter there. And then this mess right here on this Raijintek controller, it doesn't have SATA power. Unfortunately, it's Molex power, so you end up with a long extension cable. Whoops. And you have all your power here, and then here's that fan that's connected to Molex power here, so it's running at high all the time, and that'll be taken care of once I get around to getting a splitter for it. I'll probably get that when I order a new motherboard, because this motherboard's basically a piece of crap. There's a dust filter that goes on the top of this if you decide to use the top as an intake, but I recommend using these as an exhaust with your intake on the bottom, and just run nice and cool. But as far as graphics card, you can fit a graphics card in here nice. You know, the case has got a nice layout, nice design. It's you know, pretty sturdy case, and you can take, there's 4 screws here that you know, around the perimeter of this panel here, so you can take this side panel completely off, and gives you a little more room when you're working in it. And after you get everything in, you can put this back on, so that's comes in real handy. On the front, there's a USB 3 and a USB-C, and these no longer work. And I don't think it has anything to do with the connector or the cable. You can see it runs right here and then down underneath the ATX power cable. I think it's another issue with the motherboard. So that motherboard will be getting replaced with a Gigabyte. I'm having issues with ASRock boards here. I'm not very happy with ASRock motherboards right now. My main on my computer, I've got a X470 Tai Chi, and this right here is the LED strip that was underneath the I/O shield cover, where the I/O is. There's a big cover on there, and it's got a little window, and it's got lights on it. Well, all the LEDs in the center of this, except for the 2 on the ends, have turned yellow when you turn them on. You have no longer have white, so your other colors don't come through. The white looks yellow, and it just looks like crap. So I just pulled it out. So yeah, I think I'm going to get a Gigabyte board for this next, and I think I'll probably just stick with Gigabyte from now on. But let's see. Yeah, cable management. You know, you can see most of your cables end up, especially your thick ones, end up right here. And if you had a small form factor power supply in here, you'd have a lot more space for those cables. For storage, if you're gonna, you know, if you need a decent amount of storage, if you want to use this as a gaming rig, I would suggest get the NVMe drive for your operating system, and then in the front, underneath this panel here, like this one right now is just running with an SSD in there, but I believe there's a spot for 2. I believe you can mount 2 SSDs under this front panel here, and you can't see it from here, but I believe you can fit 2 SSDs in here. But either way, I would use an M.2 NVMe drive for your operating system, and just get a decent sized SSD or 2 to put up in here, because you're not going to fit a 3.5-inch hard drive in here. The only place it could go was down here, and like I said, you're better off with a fan than a hard drive down there. But anyways, I'm going to get the panels back on the side of this, and we're going to go through, we're going to do some tests on here for thermals, because I have yet to test this with a GPU in it. Alright, so we got the side panels back on. I just want to show, if you look right down in there, you can see how close that fan is to the glass, but yet it still seems to suck in enough air. And for the cooler on there, that's the what is that? That's the Scythe Big Shuriken 3. It's a low profile cooler, and it's just got a Raijintek Iris fan on it. That's fortunately it's PWM. These fans are PWM, and that's hooked right to the fan header for the CPU. Alright, so we're going to go get into a benchmark here and check our thermals. Alright, so here we go. I've got a HW monitor up so we can monitor our VCore and our CPU voltages, and mainly our temperature here. Now, for some reason, MSI Afterburner on here does not show CPU temperature, which reminds me I got to bring up MSI Afterburner as well. Alright, so we got Afterburner up, and you can see we've got a heck of an overclock on that RX 580. And we'll keep an eye on our temperatures here. I'll scoot this over so that as it goes from like through the different benchmarks, as the screen drops before the next one pops up, you can take a peek over here, right here at the temperature. So let's go ahead and let's run Firestrike on here. Let's see if our temperatures stay pretty reasonable. And we're not looking for score here either, because I mean I've got monitoring software open. I've also run Radeon Relive to screen capture this, so we're not looking for score. We're just looking for temperatures, just to see what the what the thermals are in this case with the setup that I've got right now. And this really isn't touching the CPU that much. This is all on the GPU, and as you can see, the GPU temperature was decent, and it looked like our CPU was up to 38. And this one will also hammer the GPU, so we want to just make sure our GPU temperatures stay good. The stock clock on this GPU is 1366 on the core and 2000 on the memory, and right now it's 1460 on the core, 2250 on the memory, with quite a bit of voltage added to it. So you can see, it looks like we're going to stay in, well, we're not going to get nowhere near 80 degrees, no, 72. And then this one right here, we'll know how the CPU is cooling with this, because this is all on the CPU, and this is pretty demanding on the CPU. Of course, we'll have to check it in HW monitor after we're done running the benchmark here. Yeah, it looked like 49 when it closed out, but we'll see what the peak was. All right, and there you have it. Like I said, we're not concerned about the score here. Yeah, because I mean, we're running too much stuff. But I just close that right out. Let's see, we peaked at 55 on the CPU, which is good, and the GPU we peaked at 72. So yeah, the thermals in this case are really good, and the ambient in the shop right now it's a little on the chilly side. It's about 61, 62 Fahrenheit, something like that, which would be about, oh, I don't know about that much Celsius. But yeah, I mean, the thermals are good as long as you have a fan in the bottom. It does run warmer with the, if you were to block that off with a hard drive or not have a fan down there, it would definitely run warmer. I think the fan at the bottom makes a big difference, and it does have to be a 15 millimeter slim fan. And where I got lucky on here was, there's so much reflection, but where I got lucky on here was the Big Shuriken 3. It comes with a 15 millimeter, 15 millimeter by 120 millimeter fan, and I was able to put that right in the bottom, and then I just took one at the extra Raijintek Iris 120 millimeter that I had, and I just mounted that right to the Big Shuriken, and it seems to work out well. So, anyways, that's the review that I finally, or at least overview of this Raijintek Ophion case that I finally got around to doing. I could probably give it a lot more detail, but overall, I like the case. I think it's a decent case. If you're going to be building this, you definitely got to do some planning when it comes to putting everything in. You don't want to just start installing parts in there. You want to make sure that if you get one part in, that you can get the next part in. For instance, the cooler on here, I put the motherboard in first before the cooler. At first, I tried to put the motherboard on with the cooler, and that was a nightmare to try to get everything else around it. And as you can see, let me pop this off and I'll show you. All right, let's take a look, a closer look anyways, at some of the troubled areas on here. Right here, you can see this wire coming out here. That's the CPU power connector, which that connects right there. You can see it connected there. Well, you can either route it above your fan here, or you can route it, let me zoom back out. Yeah, you can either route it above your fan here, or you can route it up this way. So what I ended up doing was routing it up above the I/O, and then you can see it's kind of it's almost smashed in there. It's not smashed. I mean, I can still move it. You know, it's free to move, but I mean, it's sandwiched in there between this cooler, because this cooler has to go this way. Obviously, you know, it's going to hit the RAM if it goes that way, so it's designed to go this way, and then that wire is tucked up there, and then here it actually runs underneath the PCI Express riser cable, and then over into this mess here. So you definitely got to do a lot of planning, and you may have to, you know, put something in and then take it back out. But as long as you plan your build out in this, and just have some patience, I think it'll go all right. Especially first time building in it, you really got to take your time. I mean, there's some small form factor cases that are they appear to be far worse to build in, and some that appear to be far better. But this has a lot packed into a small space here, and it's you know, it's split in the middle. You got the tray right down the middle, so you got power supply and motherboard on this side, and on the other side you got your GPU, and that seems to work out pretty well. I do wish there was a little more space for hard drives, and if you didn't want to deal with this, you could always get the Evo version, the Raijintek Ophion Evo, that has it's extended at the top here, so you could add a 240 millimeter radiator up there, and just run an AIO, and that eliminates, you know, the issue here, and it also it gives you a little more height room to work with. So also make sure that you get a modular power supply, because if you don't have a modular power supply, you're going to have even more cables in the way. But I do recommend a small form factor power supply, just to give you, you know, that much more room here for cables. I mean, primarily for cables, just so you have room for cables. I mean, these are tight right here. Everything is in here tight. But you know, when the glass panels are on and it's turned on and lit up, I mean, it doesn't look bad. You know, you do what you can with it. I haven't had no issue with it comes with foam that you can put around here to seal that. I've had no issue with that. This is only the second time I've dusted this thing for, and it wasn't really that bad at all. This thing does a pretty good job of keeping dust out. Unlike, you know, mine, I've got a big Antec Dark Avenger case, and that thing's a dust magnet. It gets dust in everywhere. But yeah, anyways, aside from the motherboard, this build is pretty solid, and I'm happy with it, and she's happy with it. So I hope this gives you guys an idea of what to expect from from this case here. And if anybody's interested, I'll put links down below. They're affiliate links, but I'll add them down below if anybody is interested in this case. And also, if I can find them, they also do have, instead of these tempered glass panels on the side, they've got vented aluminum panels, which are a nice feature too, and you buy those separately. If I can find those, I'll put links to those down below as well. All right, guys, I'm going to kill the heat in the shop and get out of here. It's kind of chilly. You guys stay warm, and we'll see you on the next one.